Echo 3 began with a group of militants holding some scientists hostage. One of those scientists was Amber Chesborough, an American scientist who was researching psychedelics in Colombia. Those militants aimed their firearms at them, and a gunshot was suddenly heard. 6 months ago, Amber was preparing herself for her wedding. Amber was going to get married with a man named Eric Haas, who was also known as Prince. Prince was a U.S. Army Delta Force operator. He had a good friendship with Alex Chesborough, who was also known as Bambi. Bambi was a U.S. Army Delta Force operator and Amber's brother. He was also Prince's teammate. Amber was feeling nervous with her wedding. She asked Bambi to go to her room and help her to calm herself down. She told her brother that she was not sure with her wedding because she and Prince had different belief. She thought that Prince was not a family man since he was not close with his mother and father. She was afraid if getting married with Prince was a mistake because she believed that family was the most important thing in the world. Bambi convinced her that Prince was a good person and that she would have a happy marriage with him. After Amber heard that, she finally agreed to walk down the aisle. Unlike Prince's father, who seemed to get along well with the guests there, Amber's mother, Maggie, withdrew herself from the crowd. Maggie was worried if she would embarrass her daughter if they found out that she was a drug addict. In that wedding party, Bambi talked to a man named Roy Lennon, Prince's colleague. Roy told him that Prince was a tough and highly trained elite soldier who could survive in the woods without food or water for days. In the evening, while Drifter was dancing on the floor, he suddenly received a call from his superior. His superior ordered him to fly to Afghanistan with his team the next day to rescue some hostages. As soon as Drifter hanged up, he gathered his team and told them that they would fly to Afghanistan in 8 hours. Prince was a member of his team. Because of that urgent mission, he and his wife couldn't spend the honeymoon together. The next day, Drifter and his team went to the targeted location by using a helicopter. Prince was the first team member who was sent down, but while he was climbing down the rope, the enemies suddenly attacked him. Because of that, Prince had to make an emergency landing in a different location. Drifter and his team managed to land safely in a location that was far from Prince's location. They spotted the hostages and began to shoot their firearms on the enemies. The gun battle between them and the enemies then happened. After a while, they finally managed to defeat the enemies and rescued the hostages. After that, they went looking for Prince, who landed in different location. But while they were searching that area, another group of enemies came to that place and attacked them. Drifter got shot during that attack. Prince also got shot in the leg. Bambi tried to communicate with Drifter, but there wasn't any answer from him. Because of that, he thought that Drifter had passed away. He finally decided to only save Prince. 3 months after that special operations took place, Bambi and Prince's friendship became strained. Apparently, Drifter's death had affected their friendship badly. Amber, who saw that, asked Prince and Bambi to have a dinner at a restaurant together with her. She wanted to help them to get along again. At first, the dinner went well. But as Bambi and Prince got drunk and discussed about Drifter, they started to get into an argument again. Prince said that it was Bambi's fault that Drifter died because he didn't save him from the enemies. Bambi was mad when he heard that and decided to storm off. When Prince and Amber returned home, they got into an argument. Prince was mad at his wife because she decided to be on her brother's side instead of his side. Despite they were getting into an argument, Prince was worried about his wife because she would go to Colombia the next day. He then put a tracking device in Amber's luggage secretly. Before leaving for Colombia, Amber attended a conference. In that conference, she gave a lecture about drug addiction, something that her mother was struggling with. That conference itself was attended by many drug addicts. Apparently, as a scientist, Amber was sent to Colombia to research psychedelic drugs to combat drug addiction. Amber and her team then flew to Colombia and explored the jungle there to research the psychedelic drugs. Time finally went by. Amber and her team had been living in that jungle for 2 weeks. At home, Bambi and his mother were worried about Amber because Amber hadn't called them for days. Amber's mother was worried if a random monkey ate her daughter in the jungle. She told Bambi to check on his sister to see if her sister was all right. In Colombia, a group of armed men suddenly came to Amber and her team's camp. Amber showed their research permit to them, but those men still insisted on searching their camp. While they were searching Amber's luggage, they found a tracking device there. It was the tracking device that was put by Prince before Amber left for Colombia. Because of that tracking device, those men suspected that Amber and her team were CIA spies and took them with them. Prince called Bambi and admitted that he had put a tracking device in Amber's luggage so that he could monitor Amber's current location. But he began to worry about Amber as he found out that Amber's location hadn't been changed for 20 hours. After Bambi heard that, he went to see Prince and revealed that Amber was secretly working for the CIA. So, Amber was supposed to be free from that kind of device. Prince was angry when he heard that. He was mad that Amber and Bambi had been hiding about that fact from him all this time. He felt betrayed by them because they never told him that Amber was secretly working for the CIA. Bambi then called a CIA agent named Mitch and asked him about Amber. Mitch told him that Amber and her team had been captured by the guerrilla insurgency group called the National Liberation Army, or the ELN. He revealed that Amber's teammates had been murdered by, but Amber was still alive and well because of her privilege as a US citizen. Bambi told Prince about the information that he received from Mitch, but Prince didn't believe in what Mitch said. So he asked Bambi to go to Colombia with him to rescue Amber by themselves. Bambi finally agreed to do that. At home, a political journalist named Violeta was doing a yoga. But suddenly, her husband, Ernesto, approached her and told her that a US citizen named Amber had been captured by the ELN while she was conducting research in Colombia. He said that Amber's father-in-law, a prominent figure in the United States, had contacted him and asked him to help Prince and Bambi, who came to Colombia to rescue Amber. Ernesto hoped that Violeta could help them since she was a journalist. In another place, the guerrilla insurgency group was taking Amber to some place. After Violeta heard about what happened to Amber, she came to see a senator and asked him about the guerrilla insurgency group that had captured Amber in Colombia. That senator said that the ELN was just a group of criminals and pseudo-intellectuals. So he told her not to worry about them and said that they probably would release Amber soon. The next scene revealed that the ELN was taking Amber to a house. After Violeta talked to that senator, she came to see a man named Enrique. Enrique was the representative of the guerrilla group that captured Amber. Turned out, Enrique told Violeta that his group was not a part of the ELN or any other guerrilla insurgency group. He said that their group was a new guerrilla group that didn't have a big name or reputation. At first, Enrique thought that Violeta came to that place to interview him about his group. He was pleased by that thought because he thought that it could make his group become more recognized by wider society. But turned out, Violeta came to see him to warn him and his group to release Amber soon. She threatened that the American soldiers would go after them if they didn't do that. But Enrique wasn't afraid by her threat. He refused to do what Violeta asked him and told her to leave that place. Meanwhile, Amber got frustrated and didn't know what to do. She was afraid if that guerrilla group would kill her in that place, just like how they killed her teammates. She prayed that her brother Bambi would come to rescue her soon. Prince and Bambi finally arrived in Colombia and proceeded to the United States Embassy for further details. A member of the security team of the United States Embassy informed them that the group that captured Amber demanded a ransom of $250,000 for Amber's release. Prince said that he would pay the ransom right away, but that man said that he would try to negotiate with that group first, so they could only pay them for $100. The head of the security team, Natalie Foster, confirmed the information that her subordinate told Prince and Bambi. She said that kidnapping was a business in Colombia, so it was common for them to do negotiation. Then Natalie took Prince and Bambi to a room. She showed them where Amber was being held captive right now. Prince and Bambi found out that that location was heavily guarded by armed men, so it wouldn't be easy for them to go to that location and rescue Amber. Colonel Pereira also explained that the alarm in that place would go off if somebody sneaked into that place. He said that the police would evacuate the innocent people in that area first if they failed to negotiate with that guerrilla group. In that place, a gorilla asked Amber about the tracking device that was found in her luggage. Amber told him that she used to carry that tracking device when she went skiing, but that gorilla didn't believe him because he had never seen any snowfall in Colombia. In another place, a group of young people was protesting against the government. Some members of that group informed their leader, Graciela, that an American woman named Amber was captured and she carried a military electronic equipment with her. Violeta finally met with Prince and Bambi. She told them that the new guerrilla group that captured Amber didn't have any respect for any rules, so she was worried that those guerrillas would put Amber in danger. She also revealed that she and her sister were once kidnapped by a criminal group, but the government ignored them and didn't bother to send help for them. Because of that, she and her sister were struggling alone to save themselves. Unfortunately, her sister in that kidnapping. Turned out, Graciela and her group were a part of the guerrilla group that kidnapped Amber. They asked Amber about the tracking device that they found in her luggage and accused her of being a DEA or CIA agent who was spying on them. Amber said that she was only a scientist who came to Colombia to research psychedelic drugs, but they didn't believe her. In another place, Bambi received a call from Natalie. Natalie told him that they had failed to negotiate with the group that kidnapped Amber because they found out that the tracking device that was found in Amber's luggage was a military electronic equipment. Because of that, they needed to change their plan and wait for the director of the United States Embassy to give them order first before they made any decision. Prince was devastated when he heard that. He couldn't stop blaming himself because he thought that it was his fault that his wife was in danger now. Didn't want to make more mistake, he asked Bambi to rescue Amber with him that night because he knew that it was useless for them to wait for the government to send help. In the night, Prince and Bambi went to the location where Amber was suspected to be held captive there. They began to sneak into that place, but Colonel Pereira's subordinates, who were on standby in that area, spotted them. Colonel Pereira ordered his subordinates not to shoot them because they were their allies. When Bambi went inside that place, he saw Amber's blanket there. He believed that his sister was being held captive there. Suddenly, a gorilla showed up in that place, but instead of shooting him, Bambi and Prince told him to leave. Unfortunately, that gorilla told his teammates about Bambi and Prince, who sneaked into that place. A gun battle between Prince's team and that guerrilla group then happened in that place. A Colombian sniper helped Prince and Bambi by shooting a motorcyclist who tried to harm them. Bambi attacked some guerrillas who chased and attacked him. After Bambi and Prince defeated their enemies, they searched that area to find Amber, but they didn't see her anywhere. After that special operations failed, Prince made an appearance in a talk show that was broadcasted by a Colombian television network. In that talk show, Prince asked the American and Colombian government to work together to help his wife. After that, Prince and Bambi met with Mitch. As a part of the American government, Mitch felt attacked by what Prince said in that talk show and confronted Prince for it. Prince and Bambi said that they just wanted the American and Colombian government to take care of this kidnapping case seriously and get themselves involved to rescue Amber. Meanwhile, the guerrilla group was taking Amber to the jungle. It seemed that they didn't know what they were doing there. Amber was mad at them because she thought that they were only playing her. Prince and Bambi came to see a general who was appointed as the leader of the operation to rescue Amber. They asked him to get themselves involved in that operation, but the general refused their request because they had criticized the Colombian government in the talk show. Prince and Bambi were disappointed when they heard that and left that place. Prince told Bambi that he was going to bribe that general in their next meeting. In a fundraising event, Prince approached the general and told him that he would offer him a role in his father's company if he allowed him and Bambi to get involved in the operation to rescue Amber. The general smiled when he heard that. In the evening, Violeta interviewed Bambi and live-streamed that interview. Amber was listening to that interview in the jungle. In that interview, Bambi asked Amber to take care of herself and be patient because he would come to save her soon. Amber cried when she heard the message from her brother. Before Violeta ended the live stream, she told Amber's kidnappers that she was willing to interview them if they had something to say to the world or the government. After listening to that interview, Graciela's boyfriend suggested Graciela to release Amber because he was afraid if their group would be in danger if they kept holding her captive. but Graciela refused to do that and said that they need to take Amber to Venezuela first. She wanted to prove to the world that the Colombian authoritarian government was weak and their revolutionary group was right and needed to be anticipated. Not long after that, Violeta arrived in Graciela's camp in the jungle. Graciela asked Violeta to interview their commander. In that interview, the commander admitted that he didn't like the government because they were too controlling and acting like a god. That was why he wanted to challenge them. Violeta asked him to allow her to interview Amber, whom they kidnapped and suspected as a CIA agent, and that commander agreed to do that. When Violeta met Amber, she told her that she didn't care if Amber was a CIA agent or not. She just wanted Amber to be free and return to her old life. Turned out, Bambi and Prince followed Violeta secretly to Graciela's camp. They finally found Graciela's camp and spied on the situation there. After Violeta talked to Amber, she returned to the commander and asked him to release Amber. The commander was angry when he heard her request. He ordered his group to hold Violeta hostage too. The guerrilla group then took Violeta with them and decided to move their camp to another place. They were afraid if the Colombian and American government began to move after they held Violeta hostage. Turned out they were right. Colonel Pereira and his team prepared themselves to go to the jungle to rescue Amber and Violeta as soon as they heard that the guerrilla group kidnapped Violeta too. In the jungle, Bambi and Prince followed the guerrilla group secretly. It appeared that the group was going to take Amber and Violeta to another side of the river. But suddenly, Colonel Pereira and his team arrived in that place. Colonel Pereira warned the guerrilla group that they had been surrounded and asked them to surrender and not hurt the hostages. To give them a warning, he ordered his soldiers to shoot the commander of the guerrilla group to death. After that, he continued to say that it was easy for the military to kill all of them, but he decided to give them a chance. The guerrilla group was mad when they found out that their commander was killed. Graciela's boyfriend contacted their network and asked them to take revenge for the death of their commander. The guerrilla group's network then began to move and blew up a cafe downtown. They threatened that they would blow up more public places in the town if the government refused to withdraw their troop who was surrounding them in the jungle. Because of that, the government contacted Colonel Pereira and asked him to withdraw his troop. Colonel Pereira finally withdrew his soldiers from the jungle and left that place with great disappointment. When Colonel Pereira arrived in the headquarters, he received a call from the general who had been bribed by Prince. That general ordered Colonel Pereira to conduct a covert operation to save the hostages. He also asked him to allow Prince and Bambi to join them. Prince and Bambi were glad when they heard that because they would have another chance to rescue Amber. Meanwhile, Amber, Violeta, and the guerrilla group were being on the move toward Venezuela. They were heading to that place by using trucks. At the same time, Colonel Pereira and his troop arrived at the Colombia-Venezuela border to capture the guerrilla group before they had the chance to cross the Venezuelan border. Not long after that, the trucks that carried the guerrilla group and their hostages were approaching that place. Bambi managed to shoot one of the truck drivers. The mines that they had planted in that area also began to explode. Bambi and Colonel Pereira's soldiers then began to attack the enemies. The guerrilla group panicked as they got cornered by Colonel Pereira and his team. They thought of a strategy to deceive their enemies. Not long after that, some cars were approaching that place. It was a help that was sent by the guerrilla group's network. Bambi, who saw that, instructed Prince to move fast to rescue Amber. But since Prince was in a hurry, he began to get nervous and accidentally shot Violeta with his firearm. But fortunately, Colonel Pereira managed to save Violeta. Prince finally managed to find Amber and shoot Graciela's boyfriend to death. Prince was happy and relieved that he could reunite with his wife again. But suddenly, while Prince and Amber were hugging each other, a guerrilla shot Prince until he collapsed. Other guerrillas began to flood that place and took Amber with them again. They finally managed to run away from that place with their car. After a while, the guerrilla group finally arrived safely in Venezuela. Graciela was still angry because she had to lose her boyfriend in the operation that was commanded by Colonel Pereira. She held a grudge against Amber because she thought that it was Amber's fault that her boyfriend died. So she punished Amber by ordering her to walk toward the edge of the cliff. Turned out, Prince managed to survive the gun attack. He was receiving treatment at the hospital and began to slowly recover. In Venezuela, the guerrilla group was taking Amber to some place. It appeared that Graciela changed her mind and decided to take revenge on Amber for the death of her boyfriend by killing her slowly. Graciela and her group took Amber to the headquarters of a Venezuelan drug cartel. Meanwhile, Bambi and Colonel Pereira's soldiers were still going after Graciela and her guerrilla group. But when Colonel Pereira found out that the guerrilla group went inside a building, he decided to withdraw his troop from that location because attacking a facility in another country would be considered as a declaration of war. But Bambi said that he would stay and continue to conduct this operation by himself. He said that he wouldn't leave until he managed to rescue his sister. In the night, Bambi was spying on the facility where the guerrilla group stayed in to find out about where they held Amber captive. But unfortunately, one of the soldiers who were guarding that facility found shoe prints in that area. He told other soldiers about it, and those soldiers began to go to different directions to search that area. Fortunately, they failed to find Bambi. At the hospital, Prince told his father, Eric, that he almost managed to save Amber. He said that he was so close to save his wife from her kidnappers that he could hear her beating heart again. He also admitted that he loved Amber very much, but he felt betrayed by her because she didn't tell him that she was secretly working for the CIA. As a father, Eric couldn't do much to help Prince with his feeling. He could only give him his support and wish the best for Eric and Amber's marriage. He said that he would support him no matter what his decision for his marriage was. After a while, Prince finally recovered and returned home. He was thinking if he should join Bambi on a mission to rescue his wife again, or just forget about everything because Amber had lied to her. In Venezuela, Bambi was preparing himself to attack the guerrilla group. He also went to the nearby village to find some food. Suddenly, he received a call from Mitch. Mitch told him that the facility where Graciela and her guerrilla group stayed in belonged to a drug cartel called El Cartel de los Soles, or the Cartel of the Suns. He said that that cartel was controlled by a government official. He also told Bambi that the American government had decided to forget about his case because they were afraid that it would create a conflict between the United States and Venezuela. After that, Bambi decided to stay at a hotel in that village. He also visited a restaurant that was owned by a woman named Pretty. Pretty suspected that Bambi was a DEA agent, but Bambi said that he was only a former soldier who was recently working in the tourism industry. Bambi began to get drunk and thought that he was playing baseball. He took a glass and threw it at another visitor there. That visitor was angry because of that. He asked his friends to beat Bambi up together. The next day, Bambi woke up and found himself lying in Pretty's house. Pretty greeted him warmly when he saw her in the kitchen. To thank Pretty for saving him, Bambi helped her to clean her restaurant. Pretty told him that her cousin Javi used to help her at the restaurant. She said that Javi was working as a fisherman. In the evening, Bambi went to the pond where Javi used to fish and fished together with him. Bambi said that he would give all fish that he had caught to Javi if he gave him $10. Since then, Bambi and Javi got along well. They had a drink together, did some businesses together, and had fun together. When Prince visited Eric's company building, Eric told him that he thought that it was impossible for Amber to return to the United States. So instead of focusing on saving Amber, Eric suggested Prince to focus on his career and future to become a politician. Later, Prince attended a meeting where he would discuss about his campaign as a politician. In that meeting, he saw a beautiful woman named Reese. It seemed that Reese was also interested in Prince. During that meeting, Prince and Reese often stole a glance at each other. In his office, Mitch convinced his superior to conduct an operation to help Bambi to rescue Amber. He said that Amber had helped the CIA when she was working in Iraq. His superior finally agreed to do that, but he wanted the operation to remain secret. After the meeting, Prince and Reese changed numbers and began to exchange calls and messages. They sent the pictures of their bodies to each other. Not long after that, they finally decided to go on a date. In that date, Reese seduced Prince to sleep with her. At first, Prince rejected her sexual advance because he was still thinking about Amber. But after a while, he finally agreed to sleep with her. In Venezuela, Javi was delivering some fish to the cartel of the Suns. Turned out, the leader of the cartel, Thomas, liked eating fish very much, and he had been trusting Javi to deliver some fish to him. That afternoon, while Thomas was having a lunch, he asked his subordinates to take Amber to him. He invited Amber to have a lunch with him and accused her of being a CIA agent. Amber told him that she was not a CIA agent, but a scientist who came to Colombia to research psychedelic drugs, but Thomas didn't believe her. Instead, he believed that Amber was a high-ranking CIA agent because of how the American government and military attempted to rescue her in Colombia. He also said that Amber would never manage to get out of that place and would probably die there. Amber was angry when she heard that. She warned Thomas not to mess with her because his brother would come to save her soon and blow that place into pieces. After that, Amber returned to her cell. There was not much that she could do in that place except lamenting her fate. She began to hate her husband Prince because she thought that it was his fault that she ended up in this situation. Meanwhile, Thomas was meeting with a prominent Venezuelan government official named Tariq Marwan. Tariq was the person who controlled the cartel of the Suns. Tariq ordered Thomas to investigate Amber to find out about what Amber was doing in the CIA. But instead of doing his job, Thomas was thinking about having an interview with Amber, which he would put on record. In that interview, he planned to embarrass Amber and her family. He knew that Amber's family was part of the military, so he knew that the world would find it shameful that they couldn't rescue Amber. In her cell, Amber heard a woman's voice from another cell. She got out of her cell and visited that woman. She tried to talk to that woman, but that woman couldn't communicate effectively. Amber thought that that woman had lost her sanity. The next day, Amber went outside and pretended to go jogging. She observed the situation there and tried to find a way to escape from that place. Suddenly, the woman whom she visited another day, Hildy, approached her. Amber wondered why Hildy was allowed to go anywhere as she pleased in that place, unlike other hostages. Hildy said that it was because she helped the workers there to cook drug. She also said that it was impossible for them to run away from that place because that place was heavily guarded by the soldiers. After Amber heard that, she offered herself to help the workers there too. She began to help them to cook drug, feed the chickens, and do other tasks. She did that so she could be allowed to go anywhere in that place and hoped that she could find a way to run away. As days went by, Amber and Hildy were getting closer to each other. Even though Hildy couldn't communicate effectively, Amber still managed to understand her. One day, Thomas told his subordinates to dress Amber up and put some makeup on her face. He decided to have an interview with Amber and planned to upload the record of that interview on social media. After his subordinates finished giving Amber a makeover, Thomas approached Amber and told her to go along with his script. In that script, Amber would embarrass and talk bad about her family, the CIA, and American government who had failed to rescue her. Thomas threatened that he would put Amber in men's cell if she didn't do that. But Amber wasn't afraid of his threat and refused to do what he asked her. In the night, Amber poured her heart out to Hildy about her marriage. She thought that Prince had found out that she was a CIA agent and hated her for hiding about that fact from him all this time. She assumed that was why Prince didn't come to rescue her and didn't care if she died in that place. But Hildy believed that Prince would come to rescue Amber soon. The next day, Amber helped the workers to hide drug inside coconut shells. While she was working, Hildy suddenly approached her and told her that she knew a way to escape from that place. She said that she would tell Amber about that way if Amber agreed to kill someone. Later, Hildy and Amber had a private conversation. Hildy told Amber that there was an ATV that was usually used by the guards there to make love not far from that area. She said that Amber could use that ATV to run away from that place, head to the waterfall, cross the Amazon River, and go to the village. But Hildy revealed that that ATV was guarded by a soldier, so Amber needed to kill that soldier first. In the night, Amber began to make a move. But before she left that place, she visited Hildy in her cell and asked her to run away with her. But Hildy refused to go with her because she was feeling unwell. She also told her that she would be released from that place soon in November. Amber understood and finally left that place alone. She climbed the hole that she had dug and finally reached the place that Hildy told her. While she was about to kill the soldier who guarded that ATV, she suddenly changed her mind and decided to only steal the ATV. The guard woke up and realized that a hostage had stolen the ATV and ran away from that place with it. He rushed to the building and told the guerrilla group about it. The group panicked when they heard that and ordered all soldiers in that place to find Amber. The next morning, Amber finally arrived in the waterfall that Hildy told her about. She jumped into the waterfall to clean herself. But when she jumped into the waterfall for a second time, she accidentally hit the rock and hurt herself. When she arrived at the Amazon River, she met a fisherman who was fishing in that place. That fisherman helped her to cross the river. But while they were crossing that river, the Venezuelan soldiers suddenly shot that fisherman to death. Those soldiers managed to capture Amber and take her back to the building where they held her captive before. When Amber arrived in that place, Thomas ordered his subordinates to take Hildy to him. He knew that Hildy was the person who told Amber about the ATV and the way to escape from that place. Hildy looked calm and didn't show any emotion even though she knew that she would be executed. Amber felt guilty and asked Thomas to punish her instead of Hildy, but Thomas didn't listen to her. After Bambi helped Javi, he decided to take a nap. Suddenly, Mitch and Prince came to that place and woke him up. They told him that they planned to capture a brother of a Venezuelan government official to distract the attention of the soldiers who guarded the building where Amber was being held captive. Bambi couldn't communicate with them effectively because he got drunk. Because of that, Mitch and Prince decided to inject an anesthetic into his body. When Bambi woke up, he found himself being tied to the bed in a hotel room. Mitch and Prince decided to tie him up because they were afraid if he did something stupid and dangerous. After Bambi returned to his normal state, Prince finally released him. Bambi, Prince, and Mitch then had a conversation. Mitch and Prince revealed that the building where Amber was being held captive was a drug factory, and it was controlled by a Venezuelan government official named Tariq Marwan. As a government official, Tariq had a privilege to mobilize the army and release Amber. Prince planned to capture Tariq's brother, Momo, and use him to threaten Tariq to release Amber. Mitch revealed that Momo was a disc jockey who went to a yoga studio every morning to do yoga. So, that morning, Mitch, Prince, and Bambi went to that yoga studio and waited for Momo to show up. After a while, they finally spotted Momo in that place. Prince took out his drone and used it to watch the situation in that place. Unfortunately, while Mitch, Prince, and Bambi were following Momo's car, a car accident suddenly happened in front of them and blocked their car. Because of that, they failed to catch their target. Bambi asked Prince if he was really sure about his plan to kidnap Tariq's brother. He told him that he had his own plan where he would use Javi, a fisherman who always delivered fish to the cartel of the Suns, to rescue Amber. Prince said that his plan was much easier to execute because they didn't have to fight against the soldiers who guarded the drug factory. He asked Bambi to support him and his plan because that was a brother-in-law should do. After Bambi heard that, he finally agreed to help Prince with his plan. After that, Prince, Bambi, and Mitch went to a stadium where Momo was going to attend a concert. Bambi and Prince saw Momo and followed him secretly. They found out that Momo was going to attend a press conference before he attended the concert. Meanwhile, Mitch was waiting for them in the car that was parked outside of the stadium. In that car, he prepared a syringe that he would use to attack Momo. After that, he got out of the car and passed the bag that contained the syringe onto Bambi and Prince, who were still in the stadium. While Bambi and Prince were spying on Momo, a security guard suddenly noticed and followed them because they looked suspicious. Bambi and Prince realized that they had been followed. So, they lured that security guard into a place and attacked him there. After they knocked him out, Prince took his uniform and disguised himself as a security guard. Meanwhile, outside of the stadium, Mitch managed to knock a driver of the ambulance out too. Bambi approached Momo's personal assistant and told her that he was going to examine Momo. While he was doing that, Prince injected a drug into Momo's drink secretly. After that, Momo returned to his work and drank from the bottle that had been poisoned by Prince. Not long after that, he had a stomachache and went to the restroom. Prince and Bambi came to the restroom and attacked Momo's personal assistant who guarded that place. After that, they asked Momo to go with them to the ambulance, but Momo refused to do that. He came to see his girlfriend and went with her instead. Momo and his girlfriend went to a room and made love there. Bambi and Prince used that moment to attack Momo and took him to the ambulance. The next day, Mitch went to Tarek's office to talk to Tarek. Mitch asked Tarek to release Amber, but Tarek refused his request right away. Tarek argued that Amber was a criminal who spied on their country and planned to create a war between the United States and Venezuela. Since Tarek refused to cooperate with him, Mitch finally took out Momo's ring and showed it to Tarek. Mitch threatened that he would kill Momo if Tarek didn't release Amber soon. Meanwhile, Bambi and Prince asked Roy to help them to keep an eye on Momo, who was being held captive there. Momo told Bambi that his brother Tarek didn't care about him, so it was useless for him to hold him captive there. In the evening, Bambi, Prince, and Roy had a dinner together. They were waiting for Tarek to call them. But instead of receiving a call from Tarek, they found out that a picture of Bambi and Prince kidnapping Momo had been viral on internet. At home, Violetta took some medicine to help her with her post-traumatic stress disorder. It appeared that she was still traumatized by the kidnapping that happened to her not a long time ago. She became so quiet and rarely talked to another person, even to her own husband. That afternoon, she found out that Momo had been kidnapped by Bambi and Prince. She began to suspect that it was true that the CIA was responsible all this time. The next day, Violetta met with the president of Colombia. She urged the president of Colombia to capture and interrogate Bambi and Prince soon. But the president couldn't promise her anything because he and his team were still investigating this case. Violetta said that it was important for them to take this case seriously because she didn't want the United States to control Colombia anymore. After that, Violetta came to see Natalie, the head of the security team, and asked her if the CIA was behind Momo's kidnapping that was committed by Bambi and Prince. Bambi went to the airport to pick his mother up. Maggie decided to fly to Colombia because she was worried about her daughter, Amber. Bambi took Maggie to the house where he and Prince stayed in Colombia. It seemed that Prince didn't like Maggie's presence in that place. He thought that it was not the right time for her to visit them because the authority was after him and Bambi, and there was a hostage who was being held captive there. He was afraid if something bad happened to his mother-in-law. Bambi told Maggie that they were holding a person hostage in that house and planned to use that hostage to rescue Amber. Maggie was shocked when she heard that. Bambi tried to calm her down by saying that everything would be all right, and they did this so that they could rescue Amber without having to deal with the soldiers. Then he told his mother that he needed to go outside and find Prince. After that, Maggie went to the bathroom and listened to her favorite songs. In the living room, Roy was busy watching the television that he didn't realize that 3 men were sneaking into that place. Suddenly, those men attacked him, but Roy managed to attack them back. But unfortunately, one of those men showed up behind him and shot him. Roy died instantly because of that. After that man killed Roy, he went upstairs and found Momo there. He told Momo to wait and went to the bathroom to kill Maggie. But when he checked the bathroom, Maggie suddenly showed up behind him and shot him to death. When Bambi and Prince returned home, they noticed that the door had been unlocked. They suspected that someone had sneaked into that place. So they took out their guns and carefully went inside the house. Bambi was relieved when he saw his mother sitting on the floor while drinking a bottle of alcohol. Bambi said that he was worried about his mother's safety there. So he told her that he would send her back to the United States. After that, Bambi and Prince took Momo to some place. They waited for Mitch to give them next instruction. The next day, Mitch came to see Bambi and Prince. He left that place after he talked to Tarek through the video call. He also left his phone there. Not long after that, Prince and Bambi showed up in front of Mitch's phone that was still connected to Tarek. They talked to Tarek and showed him that they had Momo with them. Prince threatened to torture and kill Momo slowly if Tarek still refused to release Amber. But Tarek wasn't afraid of their threat. He said that he didn't care about what happened to Momo and didn't consider him as his brother anymore because he didn't vote him in the last election. Tariq even threatened Prince back by saying that he would make Amber die and rot in the cell. Prince was angry when he heard that. He pulled out his gun and aimed it at Momo's head. Bambi warned him not to do anything stupid and dangerous, and Prince finally listened to him. After their plan failed, Bambi and Prince agreed to attack the drug factory, where Amber was being held captive, even though it meant that they had to fight against all soldiers who guarded that place. The next day, Bambi came to see Natalie. He asked her to help him to block Venezuela's internet access for 2 hours when he and Prince attacked the drug factory where Amber was being held captive. Natalie refused his request right away because blocking Venezuela's internet access would have great consequences for her and the countries. She was afraid if it would create a conflict between Venezuela and Colombia. She was also worried if the CIA would take advantage of that conflict. But Bambi didn't care about that because he needed to rescue his sister soon. Meanwhile, Prince came to see some mercenaries and hired them to rescue his wife. He didn't care that he had to spend a lot of money to pay them. After a while, Natalie finally agreed to help Bambi to block Venezuela's internet access and provide him with military aid. But she said that she could only block the internet access for 48 minutes. After Bambi and Prince released Momo, Momo went to Caracas, Venezuela to meet his brother Tariq. He was angry at Tariq because Tariq didn't do anything when Bambi and Prince tortured him and almost killed him another day. But Tariq defended himself by saying that he had tried to help him by sending 3 men to release him. But unluckily, Bambi and Prince's team managed to kill those men. Momo then asked Tariq to release Amber because he knew that Amber was innocent, but Tariq refused to do that because he believed that Amber was a CIA spy. He asked Momo to just go home and enjoy his life with his girlfriend and his job. He told him not to interfere with his business anymore. In another place, Amber was feeling frustrated with her life. She was disappointed at people around her because they didn't rescue her. She remembered that her brother Bambi once killed a man who almost raped their mother when he was a child, so she wondered why Bambi hadn't come to that place to rescue her. She began to believe that nobody cared about her. Bambi came to see Javi and asked him about Amber. Javi showed him a video of Amber in the cell. In that video, Amber looked stressed and traumatic. Prince was worried when he watched that video. Javi also revealed that Amber was going to be executed in a few days. He said that Tariq was the one who gave that order because he wanted to take revenge on Prince for hurting his brother. Prince asked if there was someone who could stop that execution except Tariq. Javi said that only Tariq who could do that because he was the person who controlled that cartel. Thomas approached Amber and forced her to make a confession that she was a CIA agent. He even injected a hallucinogenic into Amber's body so that it would be easy for him to manipulate her, but Amber still refused to do what he asked her. Thomas then told her that he would execute her on Saturday. Maggie went to Eric's company building to talk to Eric, Prince's father. The workers there didn't allow her to do that, but Maggie insisted on doing that and screamed in frustration. A worker then approached her and told her that she could talk to Eric through the phone call. Maggie asked Eric to send a help to Prince and Bambi because they would fight against the Venezuelan soldiers to rescue Amber. But Eric refused to do that. He believed that Prince shouldn't have gone to Venezuela since the first place and should have just trusted the authority to do the job. But Maggie said that no matter what their children had done, it was important for them as parents to support and help them if they needed any help. Eric smiled when he heard that. In her cell, Amber had a hallucination where she saw Bambi coming to that place to rescue her. She also had flashbacks about the time when she and Prince met for the first time. She remembered how she asked Prince to go on a date and introduced him to Bambi when he was still working as a butcher back then. Thomas was worried if someone would raid that place to find Amber. So, he ordered his subordinates to move Amber to an isolated room. In another place, Mitch gave a badge to Prince. That badge had the flag of Colombia on it. He gave that badge to Prince so that the world wouldn't blame the United States if something bad happened to him. Prince realized that the CIA planned to use him and Bambi to create a conflict between Venezuela and Colombia. But he couldn't do anything to stop them because he needed the CIA to help him to block Venezuela's internet access. Not long after that, a reinforcement from the United States arrived in that place. Turned out that reinforcement was sent by Eric, Prince's father. Eric also wrote a letter to Prince. In that letter, he gave his support to Prince and said that he was proud of him. Prince was happy when he read that. Bambi gathered his men and encouraged them to do as much as they could to fight in this operation. Before they made a move, they created a plan for attacking the drug factory where Amber was being held captive by using the information that they received from Javi. During that attack, they would be equipped by the advanced technology that would help them to differentiate between a soldier and a civilian. Bambi and Prince divided their team into 3 small teams, which were Delta, Bravo, and Charlie. Those 3 teams would go to different directions in the drug factory to find Amber. In another place, Tariq and his colleagues were discussing about revolution. While Tariq was heading out of that place, Prince's team suddenly shot him. Tariq died instantly because of that. Suddenly, Prince received a call from his team. His team told him that Tariq had died. Before Bambi headed to their target location, he asked Prince why he joined the military, even though he came from a wealthy family. Prince said that it was because he admitted him so much. Bambi then talked about the past when their coworker, Drifter, died back then. He admitted that he could have saved Drifter, but he decided not to do that and save Prince instead. He did that because he had promised Amber that he would take her husband home safely, and he couldn't do that if he decided to save Drifter. After that, Bambi and Prince joined their team and headed to the cartel of the Sun's drug factory together. They crossed the river by using boats. When they arrived in the target location, they found out that there was a firework display in that place. From their gadget, they found out that there were many armed men in that place. Suddenly, the Delta team saw a car approaching them. They quickly attacked that car and managed to defeat the men who rode that car. Meanwhile, Team Bravo and Team Charlie began to sneak into the building. They killed all enemies whom they met in that place. They also attacked that place by throwing grenades at that place when the fireworks exploded in the sky. Bambi and Prince searched the first and second floors, but they couldn't find Amber there. They were worried because of that. They were afraid if Amber had died. They used their gadget to check that place and found out that there were still other parts of the buildings that they hadn't searched yet. Bambi believed that Amber was being held captive in one of those rooms. A group of Bambi's men rode the ATV and distracted the security guard. When the security guard opened the gate, other Bambi's men who were hiding in the bushes shot him right away. They also began to shoot people in that drug factory. Team Alpha went inside the cocaine room and looked for Amber there, but they didn't see her anywhere. Instead, they found female workers who were cooking drug there. They evacuated those workers from that place right away. Graciela found out that they were under attack. She panicked and ordered her subordinate to get her a bazooka. Bambi used his gadget to check the situation in that place. He saw his men in a building, which were marked by blue lights, and some enemies at the yard, which were marked by red lights. Turned out, someone live-streamed that attack. Many people watched that live stream, including Violeta. She was surprised to see what happened there and called her husband right away. She asked him if it was a Colombian war. Prince heard Graciela ordering her co-workers to go to and guard the room number 6. He believed that Amber was being held captive in that room. The enemies finally found out about where Bambi and his team were hiding. Because of that, they managed to kill the team's Commander 1 and Commander 2. They also used their bazooka to kill the team's guard. Prince and his team panicked because they were surrounded. Not long after that, an armored car showed up and drove around that area to kill the enemies whom they saw. While the fierce gun battle between the team and the enemies continued to happen, Bambi threw a smoke grenade to distract the enemies. The smoke from that grenade allowed his team to go to a car and use that car to stop the enemy's armored car. Bambi used his gadget to look for Graciela and finally managed to find her position. Graciela was trying to run away from that place, and the team chased her right away. Bambi went to the room number 6 and heard Amber's voice from inside. He then broke down the door carefully by using a hammer. Amber was surprised and happy when she found out that Bambi really came to that place and rescued her. She cried and hugged her brother right away. Not long after that, Prince joined them and hugged his wife. He was happy that he could see his wife again. After the team managed to rescue Amber, they went inside the car and left that place. While they were leaving, they blew that place into pieces. Even though Amber was in a safe place now, it appeared that she was still heavily traumatic by what had happened to her. She looked confused when Prince approached her, as if she didn't recognize her own husband. Prince tried to hug her, but Amber bit his shoulder and pushed his body away. Prince was confused when he saw that. He told Bambi about Amber, and Bambi suggested him to give her a time because Amber had just experienced a traumatic incident. At the harbor, the president of Colombia warned his army about the potential war between Colombia and Venezuela. He encouraged and told them to prepare themselves for that war. Suddenly, Violeta came to that place and tried to talk to the president, but the president's bodyguard didn't allow her to do it. Violeta was disappointed and finally left that place. In the car, Violeta watched a video of Thomas complaining about his place that had been destroyed by Prince and his team. He played the victim and told the audience that he and his workers suffered a lot because of that attack. After that, Violeta went to see Bambi and tried to ask him something. But Bambi asked her to help him to calm Amber down first before they had a conversation. Violeta agreed to do that and approached Amber. Violeta carefully asked Amber if she wanted to talk to her, and Amber finally opened her mouth. Amber told her about everything that she had experienced when she was being held captive in the drug factory. She mentioned about her friend Hildy, who got executed because of her, and how she saw the massacre in front of her. Violeta tried to convince her that those horrible things were not her fault. After that, Violeta talked to Bambi and Prince. She was mad at them because she believed that Bambi and Prince were the people responsible for the massacre that Amber talked about. Because of the attack on the cartel of the Sun's drug factory, Colombia and Venezuela began to attack each other. In the night, Prince went to Amber's room, but he didn't see his wife there. Prince panicked and told Bambi about it. They searched that house, but they didn't find Amber anywhere. They finally decided to go to the city and look for Amber there. They didn't care that the authority was after them and they might be captured by them. After a while, Bambi finally found Amber in a church. He saw her praying there and approached her. Amber went to the church to calm herself down and ask God for forgiveness because she believed that it was because of her that her friend Hildy died. After she finished praying, Bambi calmed her down by saying that everything would be all right and took her home. In another place, Violeta came to see the president of Colombia and asked him to stop the war between Venezuela and Colombia. She believed that the president knew that it was not the Colombian soldiers who attacked the cartel of the Sun's drug factory, but some Americans who disguised themselves as Colombian soldiers. She urged the president to arrest Bambi and Prince, make peace with Venezuela, and tell Venezuela that this whole thing was only the CIA's strategy to create a conflict between Colombia and Venezuela. Violeta knew that the United States would send money or military equipment to Colombia if they had a war with Venezuela. But she didn't want the war to happen because it would kill many innocent people. The next day, Mitch went to the harbor to pick Bambi and Prince. Mitch told Bambi that the roads in the city had been blocked by Colombian soldiers and police officers on the order of the Colombian government so that Bambi and Prince wouldn't be able to run away. Bambi and Prince panicked when they found out about that. They finally decided to get out of the car and went to the nearby market. The Colombian soldiers found them and chased them right away. Colonel Pereira informed his soldiers that they were allowed to kill Bambi and Prince if it was necessary. Bambi and Prince realized that they had been surrounded and it was impossible for them to keep running away from those soldiers. So they stopped at the store and took out their firearms. They began to shoot all soldiers who were trying to stop them. After a while, they finally managed to run away from the rest of the soldiers and go to the harbor. When they arrived at the harbor, they saw Mitch waiting for them there. Mitch, Prince, Bambi, and Amber then got on the speedboat and headed to a small island. When they arrived in that island, Mitch told them that he would return to that place the next day to pick them up and left that place with the speedboat. Prince and Bambi then checked that island and found out that it was safe for them to be there. For the first time after Amber left the drug factory, she finally could feel at peace with herself again. She took a shower and cleaned herself. Bambi and Prince also enjoyed themselves by eating some fruits and hanging out in that island. The next day, Mitch returned to the island and picked them up. After everything that had happened, they finally could feel at peace with themselves again and enjoy their journey.